Bapak Ibu sekalian, how are you? Fine, thank you. I think in some sections we will relate back to the first session that we had today with Pak Andre, because that's also about managing team. And part of it, of course, when you manage a team, you will come across to different problems and conflicts and those things. Yeah, these are the issues that we will discuss, starting with, actually it's a bit difficult to start with the definition, but maybe we could reflect our understanding of the term multidisciplinary, and some people also said interdisciplinary, and then we have transdisciplinary. And then we will have a short discussion, a little bit on what are the challenges that we have if we want to make, or if we want to be involved in a multidisciplinary research team. And then I will present two case studies. One is a case study, I took it from MIT. And the second one, I think Pak Doni already told you a little bit about the story of Eliminate Dengue project. That's also a good lesson, so hopefully for all of us. And then ended with message to take away. So there are 10 principles that we need to bear in mind if we want to lead a multidisciplinary research team. So I'll start with the first one, definitions. And I'm not suggesting that there are definitions which is very clear-cut in terms of the difference between multi or inter or transdisciplinary. So even in some of the references, they suggest that it may actually be interchangeably with the terms. But anyway, I think we'll all come across to this term, interdisciplinary, interprofessional, multi-professional, multidisciplinary, and then transdisciplinary. Yeah, what's your own reflections on these terms? Many people from different disciplines, different research area, different areas. Yeah, different expertise. It can be within the faculty, it can be outside the faculty, as long as we work with others, yeah, not in our own discipline and expertise. Yeah. And also, yeah, there are literatures that suggest that, I mean, these are just different types on teams, and one said that if you say transdisciplinary, then the intention is higher than if you say multi or interdisciplinary. But anyway, these are, I think this is some useful distinctions, although you may also give different opinion on this. It says here that when we use inter-multi-professional, these are a bit narrower than inter-multidisciplinary. And the reason, one of the reasons is that when we say multi-professional, that means we work with other professions. And if the team also includes the non-professionals, then that is when we use the term multidisciplinary. Now, of course, it's also a question, what do you call something a profession? And the other thing is not a profession. Yeah, if we, in our team, for example, if we do lab research, certainly we will involve lab technician. And do we call that a profession or not a profession? The same way, for example, if we work in a large project, then we would have someone taking the role of research manager, for example. Now, here in Indonesia, it may not be called a profession yet, but outside Australia, US, England, that's a profession by itself, research manager. So, I mean, these are just, I guess it's just throwing to you. And transdisciplinary, here I quote that this is a team who have developed sufficient trust. So maybe the trust is already higher, the mutuality is also higher, and it involves a wide array of professions. Yeah. On this, I'd like to invite Alan. What's your reflection on this? Because I said I'm putting myself into trouble by giving all this definitions. So please, Alan. Yeah.
I think the issue really is that people have to have an open mind as to who is going to be most effective as a team to collaborate together to answer a question. And that might involve different professionals, it might involve workers from different disciplines, etc. So I think all of these terms are quite interchangeable, but I like the last quote there, interdisciplinary team whose members have developed sufficient trust and mutual confidence to transcend disciplinary boundaries and adopt a more holistic approach. That's what it's all about, really, is to bring different skill sets to the answering of the big question.
Yeah. Many of you are clinicians, so if we put this in a clinical setting, in terms of giving care to patients, also we use a multidisciplinary team. Yeah? Maybe you face, let's say, stroke patients. It's not just neurologists who is involved in giving care, but we need nurses, we need physiotherapists, we need all different other fields, nutritionists, and different fields. So, and so here it says dynamic process involving 2 or more health professionals with complementary background and skills, and with sharing common health goals. So when we deliver care to patients, I think the common goals would be value added to the patients. Of course, that's the number 1 priorities, but also organizational and staff outcomes. For research, now I came across to this quote, and it makes me really think. And perhaps you also have a comment. This is a quote from a Nobel laureate and, president of the this must be my jet lag, Royal Society of Chemistry. Sorry for this. And it says here, traditional chemistry, physics, biology, departmentalized university infrastructure, which are how clearly out of date and a serious hindrance to progress. Now that makes me think, what do you think about the structure that we have in the faculty? Because we have anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, histology. I mean, how do you feel about that? You feel okay?
That's the branch of, by traditions, it's, there is the branch of science that we are teaching, right? Okay, I don't really understand what is the meaning of this hindrance to progress. I mean, the point of multidisciplinary is that you have a discipline that will add a value to the team, right?
Yeah.
So how having a name for a certain boundaries for your discipline could be a hindrance. It's actually something that you are an expert at, and it can add value to the team as a whole.
Well, I suppose having this, call it traditional departments. In some hospitals, they no longer call it pediatrics or ENT or those things, but it's more of, for example, more integrated heart, for example. If you have any problems with that, that doesn't necessarily mean cardiology. Yeah, anything to do with that, or reproductive health, or women's clinic. These are more integrated. But really, I mean, I also question myself. I mean, this is it's not to criticize what we have, but it's just thinking, is this structure good for a multidisciplinary research team? We are talking in this context, a multidisciplinary research team, not for the context of teaching or for other things.
Same argument can be said, the Prof. Laksono previously mentioned that now we need to be more subspecialized in certain things, because the branch of science is getting bigger and bigger, so somebody needs to specialize more so that
Sure.
Yeah, it seems like contradictory to what you just said, right?
Maybe yes, maybe not. I mean, having someone who really have a very specific specialty, I think regardless of what kind of organization you have, is definitely what we need. But yeah, for example, in teaching even, we are now moving away from departmental into more of a block, which can be seen as a multidisciplinary, because then you are geared about talking about one organ but from different perspectives. Maybe, yeah, maybe this can be something like that too, that within a topic that we have a common interest, then it's easier to do multidisciplinary research. I'm tempted to ask Alan, is your structure still very much like anatomy, physiology, or what is it in Australia?
I started my career in the Department of Physiology at the University of Sydney, which was a building which housed 3 departments. Decisions were taken to create a school of medical science, and the 3 departments were dissolved so that there was only a single head of the School of Medical Science. And within that structure, then for certain purposes which were mostly related to teaching, we got down to disciplines of anatomy, discipline of physiology, discipline of histology. So that for the division of some teaching arrangements, they retained the discipline structure, but for the major organisational structure and the control of resources and the management and leadership of that group of disciplines, it became the School of Medical Science, which allowed a greater opportunity for people to interact on the big decisions about how much equipment will we buy this year and what will we use it for. So there's a much more interactive process, a much more multidisciplinary process in making the budget decisions, for example, on what research infrastructure needed to be supported.
Maybe that's the key, having the multidisciplinary process regardless of the structure.
That's right, exactly. But there's a downside here. We have to also think about organisational psychology, because I know from my own experience at another university, there was a department of physiology and pharmacology, which was a very large department, and it tended to divide itself into 2 halves. So the staff gradually separated themselves into pharmacology and physiology, because the number of people that were involved in that big school was just too large for the organisational psychology to hold it together. And in fact, I've figured out that, or my estimation is that once you get more than 25 senior academics, that is lecturers up to professors, you might have 4 or 5 professors, or maybe more than that, 10 professors in a school, with related numbers of senior lecturers in different aspects of that school. The organisational psychology which underpins that environment starts to mean that they will divide up into their little groups. So you can't bring everybody together in one huge group which is multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary for the reasons that you would like to suggest. There are other forces at play which tend to break it up again. People want their allegiance, they want their team, they want to be in a team which is a recognisable group which they can easily communicate with. So that's a counteracting force to the nature of bringing people together in this way. So there is a very fine balance between the 2 forces, and if you can get that right, then it can work really well.
I think if we are not working together with colleagues from biology, for example, we have never thought that we could develop a vaccine for the mosquito, because that initiative is really developing the vaccine for the mosquito, so that when the mosquito bites, that they will not transmit dengue virus to human beings. I mean, this kind of solutions, I think, with having multidisciplinary research team, I think all the crazy ideas, if I use Steve Young's term, that can be put together in a more productive way. How many are you are involved in some sort of a multidisciplinary research right now? May I know? Do you raise? No? You said yes, meaning, but within the school of the, not with other colleagues from other departments, or? No. Okay. Yeah, maybe yeah. No, but even within the faculty, do you work with other departments in research, for example? Pak Asmedi, ada nggak? Do you have any research that, you know, in the team there's from multi-departments, let's say multi-departments? Oh, okay, it's about to propose. Good. Yeah, I think it's, I think I'll put it, it's a challenge for us to, how to create an atmosphere where it's easy for clinicians to meet with biomolecular scientists, to meet with each other and trying to find out the way to solve a problem. Yeah, and this is, on the contrary, this is the unidisciplinary solution, which I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there is a scope for that to deepen maybe certain understanding of the certain field. Now, however, we also see that the trend seems to be pushing us into more of a multidisciplinary approach. And this is just an example of offer from NIH, National Institute of Health in the US. They awarded scientists with grants nearly 10 million US. I cannot count how much is that in rupees. Beyond imagination, the number of grants, to establish multidisciplinary research program in cancer, nanotechnology, or let's say human genomics research. That always improve all the multidisciplinary. And also it's very interesting also for us to learn that even in the Mayo Clinic, which is, well, perhaps it's more like a teaching hospitals, but with more extensive network. There also they have a process to produce leaders of multidisciplinary research team. So I think the direction, the forces of the research is geared towards that direction, that simple problems can be solved better if we have multidisciplinary thought. And also in terms of funding, I think large funding would like to see that happen in the team, not just within a discipline. Now, why do we need this multidisciplinary team, whether it's in the context of patient care or in the context of research? I think in the context of patient care delivery, one of the reasons is with the aging population. Now, I think with elderly, all the problems becomes more complex. And yes, we have apa ya, gerontologists, geriatrics, yeah. But I think not all the problems can be solved also by geriatrics. So this require more complex care and more complex needs. And then as the needs is more complex, I think the complexity of the skills and the knowledge required is also much more complex. And sometimes, as Pak Rusdi said, having someone who is very competent in a very subspecialty area, certainly this is very good, but we need also to be careful not to create fragmentation in the system, because you know, the more expert you are, the narrower you are. We tend to look at in a narrow way, a fragmented way. So maybe this is also a balance of having multidisciplinary team. Current policy to encourage multi-professional teamwork, and also if we now always there is a forces to improve quality from all the different professions. So I think from the patient care as well as from the research viewpoint, I think the synergy is there, all moving towards multidisciplinary research. One example of this would be, I don't know, how long does it take for a drug discovery? For example, from the first stage up to when it's ready for distribution. Maybe it will take 10 years, 20 years, 20 years. So it's clearly multifaceted. Even with us, the Eliminate Dengue research, that started 2011. And currently, the result that we will have to show whether Wolbachia in the Aedes aegypti will be able to reduce dengue, that's only end of 2019, which is 4 years ahead. So I think our research in medicine, it will take a lot of years, many more years. So naturally, it would need a multidisciplinary approach. Now, having spoken about this, I'd like you to discuss with your neighbor. What would be the challenge for engaging or having this multidisciplinary research? What would be the challenge? I think when I ask you, since I have the impression that few involved in multidisciplinary research, so what is the challenge to do multidisciplinary research? What's the obstacles? Okay, so have a 10 to 15 minutes discussion. Just discuss with your neighbor. Yeah, I think a couple. Feel free to discuss also within your DNL. Yeah, okay, we'll start from here. You finish early. Ladies first. It's ladies first. Yeah, you start first. Please share what you discuss.
I make a small research with another department, but the start of the research, because I already know the people and the person, and when I share the idea, he responded well, and then we can work together. Now that's the difficult thing is when we have the idea and we will find the right person to collaborate. Yeah, and also the time. We also discuss about the time because, like previous experience making the project with our team, but because we don't have time to gather and discuss, so only several people did the project, so it's not good collaboration also. And maybe Puji want to add?
I think the biggest challenge is that we find the expert, the person who have expertise in their field, but who have some vision with our idea. So it's not about the expertise actually, but how the person
chemistry.
The chemistry is more important
for
for us.
But chemistry is more important than expertise.
But since we don't know
a
lot of persons, so sometimes we have a hesitance to gain or to initiate the multidisciplinary research.
So the challenge is number one is to find out who to work with.
Yep.
Yeah. To find the right person, the right expertise, and the right chemistry.
Trace not, and then we cannot do the collaboration.
Okay. Bu Ita, Mbak Dia?
Strong enough to manage the multidisciplinary. So as I told Professor Uut about the idea, maybe will come from one of us, maybe me, but then I will need someone to really manage the multidisciplinary. Of course, collecting person expert in alignment is not the easy way to manage. So we'll need, let's say, the multidisciplinary research will be how do you call in English? Dipimpinnya? Led, yes, by.
So it's to find the leader.
Yeah,
that's the challenge.
That's the challenge, to start, and then that's the challenge, because chemistry won't be just enough. Oh, the chemistry is between me and Pak Rusdi, but then who will manage the?
Who will lead?
Yeah, who will lead?
The one who have the idea. The one who have the idea should manage.
Do you think it will be easy to start? Because it is not easy. You have I have the idea, but to manage the multidisciplinary is different things. So someone have the power. Doesn't mean someone have the money, but someone have the certain level. I don't know to explain, but I feel like when I'm trying to pose some proposal things to do multidisciplinary, it won't be easy. So I will need someone. Maybe I will wait till another 10 years, then I will have.
Oh, that is very sad. So there's no response. There's no someone who trying to untuk menggerakkan itu ya, to process it further. Ya. Anything else, Mbak Dia? So the leader is the problem.
Yeah, I think the other problem is that we need to think that not our expertise is the number one. Maybe like that is because sometimes we just want that we are the most important thing in this project. I think something like that. The dominancy in the team.
Because you want to be, sorry, I missed, so you want to be, someone wants to be dominant in that team? Or?
Yeah, maybe sometimes it's happen in the multidisciplinary.
In the multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, from here?
Sometimes it's hard to make similar perceptions, visions and missions in the people with different expertise that we need to make the project. And the other is limited networking. Sometimes it's hard to find the expert as well that we need to make the project or the proposals. And the other thing is that a multidisciplinary projects mean that it will need a big funding, so that it means that we have to apply a big grant for that, and it is very, very difficult. So it needs more time and more energy and more thought to make the coordinations and the organizations to organize it. So that's why it's hard to make the proposals.
And that's you perceive it as frightening. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand what's the general feeling.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. Mbak Vina? Okay. Please add. So don't repeat.
Some people have another idea based on their expertise. Other people have an idea. So finding common ground or finding common goals will be more challenging, which could lead to more conflicts, like I've mentioned before, which in the end could lead to less efficiency in time, because make all these people gather together for timing is sometimes difficult, and also the process for creating the research itself will take more time rather than if you do by yourself. And in undergoing the project also there are possibilities for less efficiency because of all these things that have been mentioned before. Anything else?
Yeah, I think there are many attitudes that must be present to have a good collaborations, especially for the multidisciplinary. For example, like everyone will think that their expertise is the most important one. So once they work together, then they might be trying to be the superior or the most important person in the group. That in one mountain, they cannot be two tigers. Means that, so if there are too many dominant person in the group, then they will fight each other. So that's one of the attitudes we should have in the multidisciplinary group, and there are many others. So yeah. What else?
Yeah. When you say common ground, do you mean sort of common roles that we need to agree before we work, or is it more
basically,
of the content of the research itself? It could
be anything. I mean, like what we have discussed before, like simple decisions, not as simple like which journal you want to publish. That's something that if it is multidisciplinary, you will have a lot longer discussion compared if you do it by yourself. When you do, you discuss about resource allocations. When there are more people from multidisciplinary research, there will be a lot longer discussion about that and things like that. So finding common ground in everything will take longer steps than not, which I said, if it happens all the time and without a good process, it could lead to less efficiency in all the process of research.
And I think in Indonesia, because we have a very special culture, that we don't want to have conflict with others. So we just keep silent, but in the end we will have conflict.
Have a
bigger conflict. So it's better to have what we call the common ground in the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes the Javanese culture can be an hindrance towards this. In general, our culture, maybe it's a little bit difficult, for example, to have an open debate or open argument, a strong argument. That's not so acceptable. That it adds perhaps to the challenge of the multidisciplinary. Ellen, would you like to comment also on these challenges?
That I thought of. And I've listened to the contributions from around the world, around the room. And one of the things which has struck me is that the situation where you are finding yourselves at the moment, as I perceive it from the conversation, is one where you're coming from a culture of everybody at the moment is pursuing their own individual research interests. And moving from that position to one of a team-based approach has many challenges related to it. The first challenge that I identified, and I'm not sure if it's actually the most important, but it is the first one that I thought of, and that is identifying the problem. In other words, identifying the research question which needs an answer, which is new and exciting and crazy, as we heard earlier today. And getting that identified, how do you go about identifying that? And how do you go about identifying the capacity that you have in your organisation to address that problem? Okay, you mentioned ageing before. Ageing is a huge problem for every society, and you've got your special problems related to ageing here. So what is the faculty doing to address the major problem of ageing? Would be a question I would ask, which immediately throws up a challenge to every individual around the table here. In other words, if the faculty determined that we were going to determine a priority of research going into ageing, how would my research fit into that, and how can I make a contribution to that? Okay, so it then comes back to faculty organisation and faculty leadership. And the question, the challenge that you have, another challenge that you have is what is the organisational structure which allows your faculty members to have that discussion in an open, contributory, equivalent, respectful way, so that you can get to answer what is the problem we are going to address as a faculty. So it comes back, the summary point is here, are you all operating in research for your own benefit, or are you operating in research for the faculty's benefit? And if you can start to have that dialogue and develop a culture within the faculty to say that, look, these are you might identify 4 or 5 major questions which need answers, and that can accommodate most of the capacity for doing research that you've got in the faculty. And that becomes a really big strategic decision for you and the Dean and the Vice-Chancellor to support to move forward. So that's a couple of challenges within that. So identification of the problem and the capacity to deliver it, the organisational structure, but then how do you bring in the leadership question? How do you identify the leaders of those particular issues? So what I imagine would happen would that you could have a faculty workshop where the senior players in the faculty who are active leaders in research can come together and design a faculty research strategy which identifies these major directions that you want to follow. And out of that discussion, then you will each aggregate towards a particular research theme, and you'll have that work pursued in a multidisciplinary, multi-whatever way. So that's a challenge. The other related challenge to everybody coming together to work on not everybody, but small teams coming to work together on a problem, is that you have to recognise that there are different personal requirements of each of the participants in that team. They each have their career aspirations, and so the team has to work out how is all that going to be met. How are we going to look after the people from their career perspective? The fifth challenge is how do you find sufficient funding to support a multidisciplinary large problem for a sufficient duration to get a realistic answer? Okay, so it's not only the quantum of money, it's the time frame for the money. And you mentioned drug development, for example, 20 years. How do you find money for 20 years? That's why we have drug companies. And then the last one is something which has become up very regularly in all of our workshops, and that is time management. How do you align the time management of all of the people? Say everyone in this room was contributing to one single theme of research. How do you align all of your time commitments so that you can each make a contribution to that work? There has to be an organisational structure which allows you to come together at particular times to discuss the direction of the research, and who's doing what becomes down to big project management. And so there has to be a flexibility in organisational structure and organisational time to allow that to happen. So they're the big challenges that you face in developing, in my view, in developing a multidisciplinary approach.
Sometimes if we think about who will be the leader, we automatically think about who is most senior. It's just sometimes not necessarily fit with if we want to compete in a proposal grant. Because, I mean, the leader, Yodi told me, if we put the dean as the leader, very relevant in terms of the content, because it's cancer is part of that. But if they find out that this is the dean, they will know automatically that the dean will not have time for this. Whereas we think that, oh, we can still have time, but then we do it between, after 10 o'clock in the evening, or because we actually don't have time. We are all very busy. So this is perhaps also some of the issues that if we think about who is the leader, I think who has the energy to lead. And my short experience told me that if I want the younger generation like yourself to lead, then we need more senior generation to be prepared to back you up. You know, if there's a certain problems, if you feel nggak enak gitu ya. And this is also challenging because not everyone who is senior in the faculty would want to give away to the junior to lead. Some of the senior, they still would like to be in the position of leading all the time. Yeah, this is also a challenge. Now, what I present here, a lot of the things that you've mentioned already, and it can be classified into challenges related to technology. And then this is also interesting, faculty incentives and institutional structure and policy. Let's go through one by one. I'll skip this, yeah. Technology challenges. So how do we communicate if we want to set up a multidisciplinary team? At the moment, I think a lot use this WhatsApp group. that seemed to help. The liver transplant also organize everything used with the WhatsApp group. But then how do we effectively disseminate the information? Yeah, this is who to find to collaborate with. I feel sometimes embarrassed that even the CVs and the bios are not readily available. For example, if you have the idea and you want to find out who is in the faculties working in this area, that's already challenging. Yeah, because the system is not so easy for you to access. The LKD Bapak tuh yang sekarang selalu dikumpulkan setiap satu semester, that's used more for administrative purposes rather than for more productive services. Working across institutions, if we involve other institutions, then the challenges would be, do we need the ethical clearance from each of the institutions? I think one of us have experience when research is led by a partner outside Indonesia, but then the research is done in Indonesia, and if we are not aware that even though the ethical clearance has been already issued in that country, but we still need the ethical clearance from where the data collection is carried out. And apparently in one of the research this was not done. And this was a research for a PhD student at university outside Indonesia. So it's really a big problem then, because the research cannot be published, the PhD student also cannot use that. It's a big problem. Different timeline for approvals. I think we have mentioned several times that time commitment is not easy. I think this is a combination of time and information, because sometimes, of course, we cannot expect that everybody will be present in that time, even though we have agreed. Yeah, for example, in this proposal, we have agreed, okay, Thursday 7 to 9. Some people will show up and some will not. But I think we try to maintain that those who don't come to that meeting, they will always have the information available. They know what's happening in the meetings and they know what to do also. So we don't leave them out simply because they don't attend the meeting. Sharing proposal information and data. Now these are the challenges when it comes to networking and communications. I'd like to highlight this one, because if we work with other researchers, and we know that everyone is busy with tutorials, with teachings, and with patients, clinical work. So we really need to be supported by someone that can help us with organizing the files, reminding everyone, making sure that everyone is doing what they are supposed to do, and that would be very demanding if it's done by researcher or lecturer. Yeah, so we really need, I would say, a research administrator or research manager to keep the work going. Yeah, and then limited time and staff. Yeah, this is especially for centralized office. I found it also that maybe for a small scale research funding, it's okay perhaps not to have a research administrator. But if we talk about research, how large, Pak Yodi, maybe beyond 100 million rupees is already very difficult if we don't have staff keuangan, someone to manage the budget, and if we don't have a research administrator. Yeah, so this is also not yet a culture, I think, even in the faculty, that those who are engaged in research is just researchers with no support staff or to help the researchers. Then we'll end up with researchers doing all the financial accountability and doing all the SPGs and the reports, and rather than the research itself. Yeah, so yeah, again, this is what we have discussed. Faculty incentives. Now, this is interesting. I think from this course, I reflect a lot from this, and also telling myself also what needs to be done. What is the incentive for doing interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary research? You've mentioned all the challenges. We need more time, we need more budget, we need more of this and that. But then, what would you expect? What is the incentive that you would like to to have out of this multidisciplinary research?
$100 million for research into, what was it, something in nanotechnology, cancer and nanotechnology. Why did they put up $100 million for that? It's because they wanted to encourage the nanotechnologists to come together with drug people that are looking at cancer treatment to help them work together, and the best way they could do that was to put up the money so that they would then come together and apply together for the same amount of money. It was clearly, in the eyes of people who were expert in that field, there was insufficient work going on in an exciting area of multidisciplinary research just by the natural forces that were operating at the time. So they put up $100 million and everyone came for the $100 million. Thank you very much. We'll get on and we'll do that work now. It's something which I said back in the first workshop, when you're leading and managing research. How do you get people to come together? Move the food bowl. Yeah. Move the money. People will follow the money. And that's the comment which has just been made. It's the incentive and the drive for people to actually cooperate with each other is when they can see an advantage for themselves.
So for next year's Damas, I'll put that as a requirement of having a multidisciplinary team, that everyone will force yeah.
But that's exactly,
well, that's fine. But then those who will receive will be fewer.
That's exactly the point, Adi. The rules around what you can use the money for and how you get to the money is how you drive the incentive structure, which drives the strategy for the faculty.
Yeah. I think also that one thing that we perhaps haven't really exercised in a systematic way is where we sit down together and we look at all the funding available, grants for research grants available for next year, for example, and then really prioritize, okay, with the projects that you have, which funding that we should target. Maybe this is something that we also need to do, so that I think the way I see the faculty money is just to get started, maybe just to help the process of developing the proposal, because then people also need to be together, you need to be facilitated. But in terms of funding the proposal, I don't this is really beyond the capability of the faculty and even maybe beyond university. One example is the SINAS. SINAS is Sistem Inovasi Nasional. The grant can be as big as 3M per tahun. There is a requirement on that. You have to have a consortium, you have to work together with this and that. But if we can prepare 6 months in advance, maybe we will be able to meet all the requirements. Now this is something that of course we cannot plan this just 1 month before the deadline. It's not possible for big grants. We really have to prepare 1 year. And that's why 2 hours. Yeah. So that will be grants from Alan, maybe. Yeah. So I guess then it relates back to also how do we find people that have the energy to have the stamina to be a marathon runner. Yeah, karena then we really need sufficient time and energy to plan for that. So maybe it's something that we can do also, not to work with what's the current idea, but let's see what grants are available and how that fits within our own research interests. Maybe that's interesting. I think this is something related to what Chucha mentioned. Disincentive to participate in multi or interdisciplinary research if the department places less weight on these projects compared to individual research in their own discipline. Yeah. Do you think that's still the climate in the department, or how do you feel within your own departments? Yeah, maybe it's. Sometimes I feel that although we are UGM, we are UGM, but just to get everyone involved in research, everybody involved in research at a certain period of time, that can be challenging.
Prof. Uut, I don't know who is one of us from Departemen Kesehatan. Everybody is from Dikbud, because I'm from Departemen Kesehatan, and for the I don't know how to say in English, tupoksi. So the percentage of doing research will be limited to a certain percentage, but then you have to do the pelayanan more. So now the hospital is trying to really collecting data, who is doing what, who is doing this. So like this time for me, it's really nice time to sit and learning a lot. But then early in the morning I have to start, and then after this I have to go back to the hospital and doing what I'm not doing. But then they will collecting the data. So percentage of the time is very important.
But maybe also we face a similar issue, because then before it was much more emphasis is given for teaching, and then research as a second priority. In your case, is patient care, and then research. Yeah. So maybe this is something, some conversation that well, we hope you will start this conversation to help us to promote multidisciplinary research. Institutional structure and policy. Yeah. This is interesting. Sometimes when we say that within the Faculty of Medicine, we have researchers who work full-time to help the lecturers. Yeah? Like in the centers led by Pak Yodi and Pak Doni, they have full-time researchers. But that sometimes is also not perceived as advantageous. And sometimes it's given as negative perception. Oh, why do you have to hire full-time research? Because that is supposed to be our job to do all three, not given it to others. No structure incentives, yeah, that's clear. No structure incentives for individual to work in multidisciplinary research. And also, sometimes if at the faculty I happen to know that someone is interested in doing multidisciplinary research, and then I facilitate that group. Now sometimes it's seen as, oh, why is she facilitating that group and not the other group? So this also needs a mechanism to be in place to make sure that we have the system to promote this. Now, these are more from a practical point of view. Leadership, what characteristics do you want as the leader? Is it, again, as what you mentioned, do you want it to have a senior person who you want that person to make the process move ahead, or what do you actually require from the leadership? Funding sources, we need to identify that. Space and facilities. The faculty sometimes can be quite, in terms of space, we often also face that we have no space, but then we can always discuss under the tree or something. Facilities, parking lot, yeah. Vision, strategic plan, yeah. Well, unless we have a common goal, then it's very difficult to keep everyone in the same team. We don't have a clear vision. What are we aiming for? It's okay to have a chat maybe 1 time, 2 times, but then if we keep just chatting without a clear vision, a clear goal, I think it will be challenging to keep the group together. Sustainable funding, okay, once the fund is finished, it ends, then what will happen? How do we find sustainable funding? Personnel is often an issue. If we don't have enough personnel, we tend to hire personnel on a contractual basis, but then it's the managing this on a contractual basis is also challenging, because then the turnover can be very high. You train the person and then next year I'm leaving because I have something better. So that's also something that we face. And then to what extent are we ready to be exposed to media, to publicity? Do we want to keep ourselves low all the time? Or at some stage, do we want to be more present in the media? Okay, now I'll just go and present these two. I think these are 2 interesting cases, and this is more like challenges faced by those who work in this Broad Institute. Now, Broad Institute, I haven't visited this, but what is fascinating is that the 2 big universities can work together, and this is MIT and Harvard. And I still, well, I don't know if you have strong collaboration with UI, for example, Universitas of Indonesia. So I think this is one model also. And Broad is taken from a person who donates very large funding, Mr. Broad, to this Harvard and MIT. So it's a joint Harvard, MIT, and Harvard hospitals. Oh, I can imagine this is Faculty of Medicine, Sarjito Hospital, I don't know, UI and Rumah Sakit UGM, Rumah Sakit Academic, joint governance but single administration. So it's very interesting. And if we look at the mission and the scientific mission and organizational mission, actually the mission is not so, nggak terlalu canggih muluk-muluk gitu ya. It's actually quite simple to understand. Create and make broadly available comprehensive tools for genomic medicine, and pioneering the application to diagnose and treatment of disease. So this is a special institute that is newly established with all the faculty members, all equipments and building and facilities. So everyone's dream. And yeah? Yeah. Maybe one day we should plan a benchmark to this Broad Institute. And they say that these are the 3 most common characteristics to success. And one is again, the clear, compelling mission to the work. So again, I think it has to do with the shared vision and goal. Why are we working together? And selection of team members. And here the criteria is people who commit at the expense of individual achievement. That's very interesting, isn't it?
I don't believe it.
There must be some individual achievement, there must be, but yeah, able to sacrifice some of the...
Yeah, I'd like to see the documentation of the outcomes of that.
Yeah.
You know, these would be the most senior people.
Yeah.
Although it says team members, it's not team leaders, but anyway, that's, you know, let's move on.
Yeah. And then these leaders that, be able to motivate without having formal authority. This is also challenging. Now this is their multidisciplinary team. This is just an example of a large-scale clinical genomics, and it involves many different disciplines. And again, even here, the circle here, project manager is still difficult to find, I think, at the faculty who is able to work as a research manager. Now, often these are not researchers, these are also not faculty members, perhaps, but someone who is able to manage the project. Yeah. So this is the challenges that was faced by the, they call it the group managers or platform managers. And some items are interesting, I think, for us to learn. Salary on an academic scale. I think in our culture, it's still difficult to accept that a project manager, salary for a project manager can be equal or sometimes even higher than the researchers. We always think that the highest should be the PI and the rest should be lowest, right? And then also here, often I think in our system also we see someone as, are you a dosen atau bukan dosen, gitu ya? Staf pendidikan atau staf kependidikan. So there seem to be no other profession other than lecturer and support staff. Yeah? Whereas for multidisciplinary team like this, we need another profession. We need the research manager. We need strong finance officer for research. So that's and sometimes a manager can be mistaken for a student or secretary because they are not a lecturer. Yeah? Jadi kalau bukan dosen itu maybe it's perceived as having low status. Also the same thing I face in this project. Now Tony has shared you about this project a little bit. And this project involves a large number of persons, 63 persons altogether, from the team leaders up to the field staff, so all together. And this is also interesting to have that some of the team leaders are faculty members and some are really working full-time for this research, so hired from outside, with large stakeholders and also complex regulation. Now, I'll skip this. In terms of the scientists involved, I mean, this is also a multidisciplinary. Even from public health, we involve several divisions: health policy, epidemiology, statistics, geographic information systems. We did a lot of mappings on which areas with a lot of mosquitoes and which areas with fewer mosquitoes in Yogyakarta, for example. Social scientists and communication plays a very important role. If we are dealing with 500,000 people in the city and all these people could complain to this project, so we need a special communication manager. And then we have the entomology, pediatrician, and also the biomolecular researcher. So it's very different, drawn from different disciplines. And no, the lawyer not part of this, but we have a backup of a legal office at the university. The lawyer is not. However, we have an expert group meeting, and in this expert we have one lawyer there. One lawyer and 2 faculty from the social science faculty. So that's learning from the experience, but only when we have something to consult with. So it's not really. And these are also when we lead a multidisciplinary project here, I put here, I need to keep them happy. Well, because they are the funders. And what is challenging in this project is that the funder has a representative who sits in the research team. So every day they could see how we work and all the activities they could follow. And I think this is most challenging because in a way it's not normal to have the funders sit within the research team. But anyway, this is the group that we need to keep them happy. And then for the multidisciplinary that involve international also other university abroad, then we set up, for example, in terms of time, every week we have 1 hour dedicated for all the international advisors to have video conference. So this sometimes Indonesia, Australia, Vietnam, in different countries. So that is, we always dedicate that. And that's the commitment. And then we also set up time where we sit with the internal team. Yeah, so we have 1 hour. I mean, all is short meetings, but we should be able to be, short, effective meetings, because they always watch the minutes from that meeting. And this is also something that a leader maybe like you, to make sure that every meeting should be minutes of the meeting, and the next meeting should refer to the meeting before, and then we can continue the meeting. We also have the national expert groups and the policy and regulatory groups, which Tony has showed that these are the range. We even have this BIN Badan Intelijen Nasional sitting in one of our meetings, because they are part of the Menristek team. When it involves a foreign researcher, then the BIN and they will be involved. So here my lessons learned is that I think communication for the purpose of maintaining trust with the stakeholders is very important. And it starts with small things. For example, if we say we promise that we will send the report every month, so we need to make sure that that is delivered every month. If we say that we are going to do this meeting within 2 weeks, then we try to keep up with all what we intend to do. And this to all directions and all levels. Certain timing, we are challenged, for example, by the community, Tony has mentioned, so that we have to keep the trust also to the community and different groups. Structure communication for different purposes. We have different meetings. We have internal meetings, operational meetings. We have meetings with the scientific from different countries. We have meetings with the national, so all are structured in a way. And yes, time is challenging, but this is also what it takes if we want to start a multidisciplinary research team. Value expertise that everyone brings. No one is more important than others. I used to feel that this project is a technology-driven project because it's so fascinating to inject Wolbachia into the eggs and then to mengembangbiakan. But then later I changed my mind and I thought this project can fail not because of the technology, but because of the community. If they don't accept this project, then that could fail. But the technology is actually safe. Yeah? So this is how we manage the expertise within the groups and how to make them feel that all their expertise is well acknowledged. When it comes to quality and research outcomes, very often that we are driven by deadlines. Right? Yeah, especially at the end of the year. But then I think, working towards the last minute is always not good. But anyway, we we come across to that situation. But I think in this situation, we try to always put quality first. So with all the consequences that we have to do. Yeah, for example, if tomorrow we have to hand it something and I notice that the report is not well structured, for example, then that means the leader should be willing to really dedicate all the efforts to make sure that the outcome is good. This is also something that I'm trying to be honest with you. The project where I'm involved, the salary of the PI is much below the salary of others. So how willing are we to accept that? And that is because the rest of the team members, they devote more time, much more time. So they get much more money every month. So this is also another mindset that's not always that the PI will get the most highest financial incentives. Actually, my team members, full-time members, they have their incentive is 3 times higher than my incentive. Yeah, please.
I think what the main responsibility of the PI is having the full responsibility of the project. So that's why they should have, or they have a biggest burden on their shoulders. That's why they need to get more salary. It's just my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, Pak Yodi maybe later will have an opinion. In my opinion, it's true. I mean, that is true. But also we have to be realistic on how much time we actually devote as a PI for that project. Yeah, if I say that because I'm responsible, I should devote 70% of my time, while actually I don't have that 70%, maybe that's also not good. But in terms of responsibility, I fully agree. I fully agree. But the time that we have, and it's a matter of how effective we can work together with the team leaders, that doesn't always mean that the PI will have the highest salary. I don't know, Alan, Yodi. Huh? Yeah, that is not surprising for you, right? Yeah.
I mean, I'm the director of Center of Health Policy and Management, but many of the researchers have higher salary than me. Yeah. In our center. I actually probably have one of the lowest one because they spend much more time as researchers than me.
Because they are full-time researchers, they work much more and they earn more of incentive. But I think that's also something that maybe not everyone has the same sort of attitude.
It's not unknown that certain researchers on certain campuses in Australia actually earn more than the president of the university.
Yeah.
Because of the contribution that they make. So it's unusual, but it's not unheard of.
Yeah, it's like the salary of the Sarjito hospital director. Maybe his salary is below the salary of the, I don't know, most known physician in the hospital. But being the lead, that doesn't mean that they have the highest incentive. Yeah, and also. This is also very interesting, dual role of the funder. So the funder, they have the role as the funder, those who funds, but then at the same time they are sitting below me, actually, below me as the project support. So this is a very, very difficult situation because I never know if he is now acting as a funder or as supporting this project. I can only guess. I never know, but I think I hope you don't have to come across to this situation. And also because of the dual system, for the faculty member, we have to comply to the regulations of UGM versus the full-time research staff. Their contract is with the foundation. So let me give you an example. The foundation allows, for example, satu bulan gaji ke-13 untuk hari raya untuk apa. But if we implement that within the center that organize that, we cannot afford to give everyone and all the research staff in different projects to give the same sort of bonus, THR. So even within the same project, it can be that there are two different systems, and this will pose more challenge for whoever is leading the project. So finally, these are the maybe 10 principles that actually we want all of you to be prepared as a leader in the future. Although now you feel that you are maybe not yet the leader, but soon we would like, this is a process to prepare you as a leader. Positive leadership and management attributes. For me personally, I wouldn't want to see the leader complaining too many times in front of the big audience in the meeting. Sorry to say, Ellen, but I saw that happening. So I don't think you want to have a leader like that, where the leader is complaining, oh, I'm tired, I'm this, I have to do this and that, yesterday I traveled to this and that in front of everyone in the meeting. And that will take time, maybe 20 minutes already of the meeting for them to share. I mean, we need a leader, at least who have positive energy. I myself positioned in the EDP, I may not have all the knowledge because it's more of biomolecular entomology and I'm a little bit far from that. But then we also need to have another characteristics which we can build, which is having the more positive attitude towards what you are doing. Communication strategies and structures, I think we have mentioned about that. Personal rewards, I think this is also very important, and rewards is not just financial rewards, it's rewarding someone in front of also a big meeting is also a way of rewarding things. Appropriate resources, procedures, who is doing the minutes and who is distributing to what, who is in charge of getting this all organized, getting all the invitation, etc. These are the procedures also that we need to set up. I agree that it's easier to talk about this in the beginning rather than in the middle when we have problems. Skill mix, and then supportive team climate. I think the true test will be when there is a conflict between the different groups. If we are in the multidisciplinary team, I learned from Australian that whenever we have a conflict, they say, okay, we park this first, so not to focus so much on that and get trapped in that problem. So when we say we park this, then we put it aside and then we talk. Maybe there are another ways also. Individual characteristics, this is also when you want to find, okay, who can I work with? Chemistry, this chemistry things, Clarity of vision, quality, and at the least is respecting and understanding the roles, have agreement on the roles. So I think these are the key challenges that we need to be prepared when we want to be involved or even lead a multidisciplinary team. So I'm sure many of the things is something that we can learn together and we can share. And just to end this, I put this multidisciplinary research. Let's go for it now, or we will never be engaged in a multidisciplinary research. Okay, before I end, if there's any comments or questions or statements that we would like to make, please.
Adi, could I just ask you a question? The two examples you gave at the end about the Broad Institute and the dengue project. I have a couple of comments. First of all, on the dengue project, this is a large multidisciplinary project. How did it start?
How did it start? Now it starts actually like this.
Well, perhaps I could refine the question. Did it come from a scientific enthusiasm for a new approach to controlling dengue, or did it come from the foundation which was prepared to put up the money?
Very correct. The foundation, the father of the foundation, he has passion on dengue. So they want to do something on dengue. And then they have, so dengue is from them. The focus in dengue is driven by the foundation. And then they did a project, another project in Yogyakarta, which was not so successful. And then they tried to talk to international scientists and to look for what are the promising projects. So it starts from there.
Okay, so that's an example for the faculty to adopt on a much smaller scale, in a sense. The faculty should decide on what is the problem, how are we going to address that problem, and bring together the people that might address it, provided you can find the funding to do it, etc. So I think the big project that you've experienced with is a very large project, but it could be a model in terms of its genesis and the way it's operating, and for the way in which the faculty could help these early career researchers at this meeting to come together and to address a major problem which they can contribute to. So my second comment is related to your project, the dengue project, with all of those different people from different backgrounds, different departments at UGM, all coming together to address the problem. And the Broad Institute, and the point I interjected and I said I don't believe that people are doing this without the incentive for career progression. I thought about that while you were talking, and I think an answer to that issue is that people are probably working with the Broad Institute while their home institution is Harvard or MIT. They've still got an appointment with Harvard or MIT, and their personal career progression will actually be through Harvard or MIT rather than the Broad Institute. Likewise, in your project, you've got somebody from the GIS department who is contributing to the dengue project, but their career progression is probably being assessed through the GIS department. Right? So they're not assessed, they're assessed through their peer group in their home department. So it sets up a model by which you can encourage young people to come together into a project by having them assessed in their peer group back in their home department for their contribution to a major multidisciplinary piece of work. So I think there are some examples from what you've put forward which will help.
The Broad Institute, they have, I think they have two groups. One group is they really hired full-time faculty members from everywhere, and the second one is they have associate members. And these associate members, they have associated with Harvard or MIT or the hospitals, but they then have set contributions.
So the point you made earlier about the senior people have already made their career progression. They're at the top of their tree. They don't need to go any further. So they're okay. They're in the Broad Institute. But it's the younger ones coming through who are assessed against their peer colleagues in their, as affiliates of the Broad Institute, but employed through Harvard or MIT.
These are the models that we could develop further.
They are big scale models, but I think if you scale them back to a more addressable problem with a smaller group of people from a range of departments within the faculty, you could start that whole ball rolling of multidisciplinary research.
Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.